I want to read all your comments because you obviously maybe had followed some of my other channels, so you know the story. You said, I tell my RN friend about you and some of the things you say, but she is sadly a newer grad, but she thinks she can make a difference. Doubt it, but pray. Yeah, the newer grads they've been indoctrinated into whatever the nursing and medical associations say. It's natural. I think that at one time you could make a difference, but now with all the surveillance, they literally go out of their way, at least in psych, to make it so you can't make a difference. They don't like it. That's what I'm going to get to in a minute here. That's why it became very obvious to me over time, because even so, you know my story, but the person that made the accusation at me, which is the worst thing you can accuse somebody of, it's a lie. I wasn't abusing anybody. But it was the assistant chief nursing officer. So she trained me, and to sit in front of her and her accuse me of this, and I'm looking straight in her eyes, and I thought, this is what evil looks like, because she was getting joy out of it. There was no accusation, there was nothing. This was all targeted. And I thought, this is what a psychopath is. She's the sweetest. No, you couldn't convince anybody that this woman is a psychopath. That's how good she is. 2 jobs after I left that one, I ran into her. She was my educator. So you talk about, people used to tell me, Bethany, you have bad luck. And it seems like ever since in nursing I do. Not because I'm not a good nurse, but no, I'd say because I am. Not that there's not other good nurses, but most will fall in line. In psych, it's a little different, so I separate that from the medical and nurses. But in psych, you're going to find that there's nurses that don't have good intentions, not all, but that go into it because they don't have good intentions. So when but they'll come across to everybody like they're an angel, okay? So when they come across somebody authentic, they're very threatened by it. They'll go out of their way to sabotage you. That's much of what my nursing career has been. It's like, sad. So she can maybe make a difference, but, she should try, at least at the, patient care level. 100% piece of shit is what she was, and ugly on the inside. Yes, the chief nursing officer and many people in this. There were more people doing the wrong thing than the right. Then there were a lot of people just, that's not my problem kind of stuff. See, what made this all worse is that the union told me to rescind my resignation. If I would have just kept the resignation that I was gone, I would have never had to go before the nursing board. But I've said this before, there's a reason nurses don't speak up. It's because hospitals know easily how to get rid of a nurse, and you can't get unemployment or anything, and they'll just set you up. I've been to jobs that will literally, when they want you out, like this educator that I just mentioned, who was the chief assistant that made this accusation to me, coming from the chief nursing officer, when I ran into her at a job later, I started speaking up at that job about, you shouldn't be sending patients before I get nurse-to-nurse report. And they didn't like that. Again, the people they get to really head up the main areas of nursing tend to not be very good people. That's been my experience. But this chief nursing educator doesn't take any patients, so she had no business being in the Pyxis room. Yet all of a sudden at the end of my shift, I'm called into the office because a narcotic count is off. And I knew what they were doing, and they knew that I knew. So I resigned. I'm like, I see what you're doing. And the reason I resigned, because people might say, well, why wouldn't you fight it? Because when you go to fight it, they will do everything to set it up against you, and then they have to tell the nursing board. The nursing board is not on nurses' side. It's the one area of nursing, well, the one place in the country where you don't get to go before a judge. You can plead your case, but you're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty, and then even if proven innocent, you still will get a tongue lashing from some lawyer that's your judge. So I had to go through that, and it's very costly. And to try to get in front of a judge is money that most nurses don't have. So it's a pain in the ass. So because I rescinded the resignation at the first job, they had to do this investigation. So then the dumb and mute lawyer I had from Illinois Nurses Association, who didn't defend me in any way, I had to be sat in this inquisition deposition that this hospital's lawyer, if I ever ran into this jagoff again, I swear, and he was married to a nurse, this lawyer, accusing me of things that I did nothing wrong, but trying to make all these accusations based on, you took a patient off the unit. So did every other staff member. I took other patients off the unit. A unit gets very loud sometimes. So if like you have to do teaching with a patient, say like for blood sugars, you want to teach a patient how to do carb counts, it's very hard with a bunch of distractions when you're on an adolescent unit. So we're a freestanding psych hospital. Other staff would take patients off the unit. That wasn't unexpected. They tried to turn this into a whole big thing. Yet for patients that did accuse staff, and I never was accused by any patient, but when patients, like especially on the girls unit there, when girls would accuse staff members, like male staff members, of doing something to them, they wouldn't do what they did. What they did to me wasn't even close to what they do to them. They would still let them work, but move them off the unit while they were investigating. And nothing would ever come of it. But to me, it was this whole big show. So it was like, what the? And there was never an accusation. This was just a lie. And so the problem came in was rescinding it. So then I had to go to the nursing board, and they didn't believe my story. Lucky enough, there's always a nurse sitting in on your case. And the nurse sitting in on my case knew that hospitals will go to these links to target somebody that's in a union, so that they'll go to great lengths to do the most god-awful crap. So she ended up telling the lawyer/judge that was deciding my fate, no, this does go on. She's not lying. So the lawyer said to me, well, okay, fine. I wouldn't have believed any of your story, but because this nurse was sitting in on your case, and she was an Illinois Nurses Association, she was in a union. So, But she knew, the union knows that they do these tactics. The problem is that the lawyer for the nursing union had the evidence. It was written out by the kid, and even if they wanted to disregard the kid, the social worker was in the room that heard everything the chief nursing officer did, because the social worker called me at home, and then the tech was the one that sent me the letter of everything the kid wrote down, how they were trying to bribe him. So it honestly is just like, you feel like something's after you sometimes, and it's not a paranoia. What it is that there's some non-authentic people, and when they come across somebody that does truly care or is trying to make a difference, they'll sabotage you. It's sad to say, but there's a reason the term in nursing is nurses will eat their own. And please, thank you, or I think you should remind folks, even though you have said on here before, some have not heard, and boy, do they need to. And please, thank you for being you and having the guts to say, it's so rare these days, these people are evil. I am sure these children thank God for you. I hope they don't gobble my friend up. She has worked hard and still does work at St. Mary's in Evansville. Yeah, she'll be okay. Right now, they're trying to retain nurses. They've been treating nurses so bad for so long that they've seemed to back off on the targeting. They've just made the working environment hell. At least in psych, they do. And they're up to something at these freestanding psych facilities, but it's really just all about money. But I'll say this, Donald Trump was my confirmation that things were going to be different. So that's the reason I started speaking up, because I realized after struggling with God for so many years, like, why is this happening, God? Why? I'm doing the right thing. You go through that. And I realized that eventually, God always sets the record straight. Thank the Lord. Praise God.